Hello everyone, hope you guys are doing fine and welcome to this introductory workshop on Git, GitHub and open source. I am Abhishek Agrawal, one of the Microsoft Student Learn Ambassador, and I'm here with two amazing people, and here they are. Hi Ken, hi Chetna.
Hi everyone. So I'm Ken. I forgot to mute myself. I'll talk to you in a bit.
Chetna, you're on mute.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay, so my name is Chetna and I'll talk to you in a bit.
All right, guys, so let's look at some of the things that we'll be covering today. So this workshop is divided into three parts. In the first part, we'll be going over the basics of what version control systems are, why do we need them. We'll be looking at what is Git, how to install Git, some basic Git commands, and then GitHub. In the second part, you'll have a hands-on lab where you'll apply everything that you learned in the first part. And then we'll have our last part in which we'll take you to an introduction to open source, what it is, and how you can start contributing. So let's move ahead and understand something. But before that, let me tell if this sounds familiar to you, all right? So suppose you're working on a code project and everything is working fine, you're good with it, and then you decide to add a feature. So what you do is you write code and then you test it and oh shoot, everything crashes. But wait, you have Control Z, right? It's your friend. So what you do is you basically go back and then create another file because you really want to add that feature, and then paste all that code in, link your project to that file. And after doing this multiple times, adding tens of features, you have a folder that has 10 files with the same name and different number. You don't know which file contains what, you don't know which code is right, and life is a mess. Well, don't worry. This has happened to every one of us. And this is where version control systems come in. So before we actually dive and to understand what version control systems are, I want you to take a look at this picture, which is in a galaxy that is, well, really close. So take a look at it. Well, I hope you read it. The last person is any software developer whom you'll tell, I don't know what version control system is. But don't worry, we'll tell you everything about version control system and you'll be able to use them after this session. So let's move ahead and try to understand what VCS or version control systems are. So version control systems are software that help you to track and manage your files. What basically means is they allow you to save your files or your code at particular instances of time. So then whenever you want to, you can go back and revisit those files. It is basically like time traveling, but with your code. So if you save a code at a particular time and you do something else, and you just want to revisit that code because that code was working perfectly, then that is what version control systems allow you to do. A few other things that they have is view a log of changes. So every change that you make can be easily logged and viewed by you. They allow you to code on a team, or they allow you for effective collaboration, which will be discussed in later slides. And the best thing is they allow you to make new changes while maintaining working copies of your old code. And the way they do that is via snapshots. Now, you can imagine snapshots as literal photos of your code, even though they are not, but you can imagine at that. You can imagine them as that, because think about photos, right? They don't change over time. I mean, it would be cool if they did, but they don't change over time. So what version control system does is take a photo of your code at a particular event of time, at a particular time, and save them. So whenever you want to go back to that code, you can just select, okay, I want that photo, and boom, you have the code that you wrote at that particular version, at that particular time. Now let's talk about Git. So Git is nothing but a version control system, actually the most popular version control system in the world right now. So to use Git, we use a command line tool which is called Git shell, which is basically a command line interface where we enter commands to use Git. Now we'll look at those commands later, but that's what Git is. It also allows you to track who made changes and what, so you know who the person you want to blame. When you're collaborating with codes, when you're collaborating on a team, it's essential to know which person made what changes, and that is what Git allows you to do. So whenever you save changes, it will also capture the time and also the person who saved them, so you can refer to them at a later point of time. And again, it takes the snapshot of your file. Remember, snapshot can be imagined as pictures of your code, and you can visit those snapshot at any time, which is the whole purpose. Also, guys, I'm so sorry I forgot to mention, if you have any doubts coming up, please feel free to ask questions in the chat. We'll be trying our best to answer them. Now, let's move ahead and understand a little more about Git. But before that, what I want you to do is make sure that Git is installed. So if you're using Linux or a Mac machine, Git usually comes pre-installed with it. To check if you have Git on your system or not, what you can do is open the command prompt or terminal or whatever tool that you call it and type git space -- version. Once you type that command, if it shows you git version XXX, anything like that, this means that you have Git installed on your system and you don't have to do anything. But in case that you don't have Git installed, what you can do is go to the link that will be in the chat and download Git so that you will be able to use them in the hands-on lab later on. So I'll just wait for 30 seconds or so that you can check if Git is installed on your system or not. And if it is not, you can go ahead and download it right now. So let's just pause for 30 seconds here. All right, so I hope that you have checked if you have Git installed or not, and if you haven't, you've already put them to download. Now let's understand about Git workflow. So we know what it does, but let's look at how it does that. So here's your project could be divided into these 3 stages. The working directory. The working directory is basically the folder where all your code and other files are kept in which you want to use Git. So that's your working directory. Now let's look at repository first. So repository is nothing but a fancy word for project. Every Git project that you creates a repository. I'm sorry. So yeah, it creates a repository, and that's just what we call when we use Git, but you can think of it as a project. Now let's talk about the middle part here, which is the staging areas. So the staging area is a part where your files are when you want to save them, but you haven't quite saved them. It's like you've decided that, okay, I want these files to be saved, but you haven't just done the last part, that is actually saving them. Now, a obvious question that may come up in our minds is, why do we need staging area at all? Can't we just take files from our working directory and put them in our repository? It will be easier and it's a shorter process, right? Well, here's the thing. Along with many other things that's required, one thing that you might think of is, in your working directory, you might have files that you don't want to save. For example, you might have a file that contains all your database passwords, all your other credentials that you don't want to save in a repository and share with other people. So what staging area allows you to do is add selected files to save. So by adding them, which via using git add, which is a command that is used to add files from working directory to staging area, you can choose specific files, and that will allow only those files to be saved, and the rest of the files will not be saved. So that's the concept. Remember, working directory, from working directory things go to staging areas, and from staging areas, once you commit them, commit basically means save here. So once you save them, it goes to repository. Done? All right. So after this, let's take a look at some of the Git commands that we'll be using. Okay, for this section, I don't want you to memorize all these commands. When you start using Git, if after a little bit of practice, it will automatically come up to you. Right now, just pay attention to how Git functions and what are the steps that you need to do instead of actually memorizing the commands, because you can always search them on your favorite search engine, right? Which is of course Bing. So let's start about Git commands. So when you want to initialize a repository, you need to use a command called git init. This basically tells your system that, hey Git, I want to use this folder as my Git repository. That's pretty much it. So this is the first command that you will execute every time while you're using Git. So git init just tells your system that I want to use Git here. That's it. The next comes git add. Remember in the previous slide, we talked about taking things from working directory to staging area. Well, this is the command that does that. Git add followed by file name. So what you can do is you can select specific files to enter. Suppose my working directory has a file app.js, so I can just write git add app.js, and it will take my app.js file from working directory to the staging area. Or I can just write git add space and then a dot, which will basically take all of the files that are in my working directory or in my current directory, and then add them to the staging areas. Next comes the third part that takes the files from staging areas to your repository and saves them, which is git commit. So to use that, you just write git commit and space -m. So -m stands for a message. So every time you save something in your repository, you need to provide a message while you're committing things. This is because if you're working on a big project and you have like hundreds of commits, how will you actually notice which commit does what? So either you have to create a log on your own or something else. So Git helps us in that way that every commit is associated with a message. So what you can do is, if you just added the authentication feature in your project, you can just add a commit called git commit m edit authentication. So after a while, when you look back at the commits, you'll know exactly what this piece of code does and what have you achieved until that point. So remember, git commit space -m, and then you have to provide a message within double quotes. Next, we have a command called git status. Now, git status basically tells us the status of a project. So it tells if there are files that are untracked, basically means the files that are in our current directory and not in the staging area. It tells you files that are in the staging area, or it tells you that everything is saved and no changes has been made since then. So if you're confused, have you added the files or not, and you just want to check it, git status is the command you need to use. Next, we have 3 commands related to remote repositories, which will be discussed after a while. So these are git push, pull, clone. Don't worry, you'll know what these commands are in the hands-on lab and you'll actually practice them. So again, if you have any doubts, please feel free to ask them in the chats. Let's move ahead. Now let's talk about one of the most important feature in Git, which is branching. To understand branching, I want you to pay attention at this image. Now, let's suppose your project is in deployment mode and it actually has users using them. So that green thing is your code, all right? Now, when your code is in deployment and when it has active users, you don't want it to break at any time. But that doesn't mean that you won't add new features, right? But adding features is does always create a doubt that your code might break. So what we do that time is create another branch. So what branching basically means is it creates the copy of your code at another place where you can edit things, you can add features, you can test them, and once you're satisfied with your code, you can then merge them back or combine them back in the main branch. So let's understand it with the help of an example. So you have your code that is deployed in the green branch that you see right here. Let's call it the master branch. Okay. And at this point of time, you decide, okay, I want to add a feature. So you create another branch, which is blue in color here. And the dots that you see basically represent commits. So you can make multiple commits, right? So in the other branch, you add a feature, you maybe test it, and you know it's ready for deployment. What you do is then merge that back into this green branch, which is the master branch, which is deployed. So now since you've already tested your code in another branch and you know it's working, you don't have to worry that the code will break when it's merged with the master branch. And this helps on code collaboration too, because this is not something that only you can do. If you're collaborating within a team, someone else can also create a branch, add a feature, test it, and once they're satisfied, merge it with the master branch. And this is how code collaboration works. This is how branching works. Now, don't worry about the commands and how you do that, because that all will be covered in the hands-on section. Great. So that was all about Git. I'll give you a few seconds to take that in. Let's just let it sink in. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat right now. All right, seems like there are no questions. Let's move to GitHub. Now, I want one question to be answered right away, which is Git and GitHub same? Are Git and GitHub same? And the answer is no, a big no. So Git is a version control system software, which we discussed what are version VCS. Now, GitHub is like a online service that is used to host your Git repositories. What it basically means is, imagine making a video and then putting them on YouTube. So you have a video, you put them on YouTube. There are many people who can access that video. You can access that video, and it's somewhere in the cloud, so it's safe, because who knows what our local system might do these days. So that's the thing. GitHub is just an online service that allows you to host repositories and collaborate with people. That is, imagine like, again, with the YouTube example, there are many people who can see your videos while you're making, suppose you're streaming a live video, you can have mods that monitor the chat. Now, not exactly like that, but in GitHub, once you have your repository in GitHub, you can allow people to modify your code with you and, well, have code collaboration. Now, we use GitHub. GitHub is a website, so we basically use with our browser. Now, to make things, to put our repository in GitHub, we can either use the GitHub desktop GUI or the Git shell that is used to enter the Git commands. The popular choice is using the Git shell. It's easier, it's faster, and it's used everywhere. So that's what we'll be doing. So when we'll deploy our repository to GitHub, we'll just use the Git shell to do that. It also allows you to manage code. There are a lot of things, there are a lot of features in GitHub, like issues, and right now they are also introduced discussions that will allow you to have better management of your code. Again, collaboration, that you can allow specific people or everyone to modify or add your code. It's up to you. You can even allow no one to do that. So it's solely up to you in GitHub. It also has a feature of bug tracking, which is really important and really good. So what you can do is, in GitHub, there's a feature, there's a place called issues. So you can just add some issues that are related to your project. And then after working on them, after they get resolved, you can just close them. So that basically allows you to keep track of how everything is working, what are the issues that are unresolved, what are the issues that have been resolved, and everything like that. Don't worry, we'll be covering GitHub in the next part too. Okay, so this is the thing now, but we know that Git and GitHub are not same, but we do use them oftenly. So how does that work? And here's the thing. So you take your project, you make some changes, you do everything related to coding on your computer, and then you push it, which basically means upload. I'll be using these terms interchangeably. So push means upload, pull means downloading your code. So after making changes, you can push it to GitHub. Someone else who's working along with you can pull it from there, make some changes, push it again, and this cycle goes on till your project is complete. Edit it, edit your code, push to GitHub, pull new copies, and this is how Git and GitHub basically work all along. Now, I know that was a lot to take in, but don't worry. Everything that we've covered theoretically will be done in a practical way right now. So we are entering the second part of our workshop, where we'll be having a hands-on lab on everything that we learned till now, and we have Ken here to take you to hands-on lab. Hi, Ken.
Hi again, everyone. So I'm going to take you through the second part of the workshop. There'll be 3 exercises in total. But firstly, I'll start with introducing you to GitHub. So let me share my screen. Firstly, could I ask if anyone does not have access to the chat? Can anyone access the chat, or can no one access it? So I'll take that. If there's any issue, we'll send the slides and the links and everything after the event itself. So I'll show you GitHub. So let me sign out first. So
Hey,
you
Ken,
want to,
I'm just going to stop you for a second. So I think the chat is not working right now. So I'm so sorry, everyone. We're really sorry if that's the case. Anyways, if you have any doubts, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask them while uh, we are going on. So again, if chat is not working, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask your doubts. Thank you. And you can go ahead, Ken.
Yep, awesome. Thank you, Avi, for that. So I'm continuing introducing you to GitHub. So to sign up GitHub, you need a username, email, so the basic info that you need to register to any site. And I'll continue showing you GitHub now. So after you sign up, you'll see a UI like this. And here are the repositories that you'll have when you start posting code online. And to create like a new repo, you need to click new and name it, for example, I'll name it Git practice. And this description is like a one-liner, what the project is about. So I'll just type this. And these two options allow you to either show it to the public or just keep it to yourself. So I'll show it to the public now. And these 3 things are some additional thing that you might want to know. The description here should tell you most thing about it. So the README file should be something that's like your documentation. It tells people who visit like your repository what the project is about, what is it for, how to use it, and whatnot. And Git ignore, there are some files in your local folder that you don't want to upload it to the cloud. You want to put the names in the Git ignore. This could be edited with your text file. And you also want to choose a license. So code online, just like the concept of copyright. Some code you want others to use it, some code you don't want to. So there are different licenses. It limits, like, for example, someone else visits your repository. Can they download it? Can they use it? So depends on what your license that you choose, it will affect you. So I'll just add a README and a git ignore right now. Perfect. So after you've created your repository, you see something like this. So I'll keep that there for now. And before we start with our first exercise, I'll show you Visual Code. This is the code editor that I use. In this code editor, you could change your different themes into, like, for example, a dark theme or a lighter theme, like this, which no one likes. And the cool thing about this is really helpful. Actually, Visual Studio Code is like a big open source project. A lot of developers do it voluntarily. So they make things like auto closing the tags. This is an example of what it does. As you can see, this will be really helpful. You just need to enter the opening tag, and there will be automatic closing tag. There are also rename tags and a few other. Another cool extension is live sharing. So basically with this, you could actually code with your friend live. Your friend could be on the other side of the world and you could code together with this extension. So those are a few cool things about Visual Studio Code. And now let's move on to exercise. Before that, you could follow along as well if you want to. So I'm using so I'm selecting the directory that I want to upload into GitHub. These are the files in my directory. So if I open my terminal, so with Visual Studio Code, you'll have a terminal integrated with the software itself. But if you don't want to use this, you could also use the command prompt here, but you need to want to change your directory into the directory that you want to actually upload into GitHub. Or PowerShell, which is a newer version of the CMD. And yeah, so I'll be using the terminal in here. So let's start with our first exercise. I'll show you this part of the presentation.
Hey Ken, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but could you please turn on the chat option from the meeting settings?
Okay, so give me a second.
Yeah, sure.
Actually, I can't. There's no setting to change if you could access the chat or not.
Okay, that's okay. Then continue. I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
So I'll continue with the presentation now. This is the part that I wanted to show you. So right now I'm in the folder or directory that I want to push into GitHub, this link that we created earlier. But there are a few things that we need to do before that. So right now I'm in this green part. Now I'm using git add to add these files into the staging area. So I'll do git add. And this dot here, you might notice, it means I want to add every single thing in this folder or in this directory into the staging area. So there's a few things, a few messages it'll send you, but that's fine. Wait, sorry. And after that, you want to do git commit to put it in your local repository. Think of it as putting in like a local box to be sent online. So git commit -m initial commit. I did this because, as you saw earlier with Abhi, git commit, there's different commits that you can do. So you need to remind yourself from time to time what it was about. So this first commit was like first commit into the repository. So I'll put the message as initial commit. And here you'll get a message saying the initial commit is completed. And I'll wait for that to actually sink in for a bit. So since I've already done git init, it creates my working directory. Then I did git add and git commit. So just 2 commands. This means at this part, all of these files are in the local repository. Before we continue with the second exercise, I'll show you 2 git like useful git commands that would be really helpful when you're doing this stuff. Because like, for example, like when you're traveling on the road, you want to know where you are. These 2 commands that I'll show now will tell you where you are on the road. So git status, it tells you which branch you're on. This concept of branching will be shown in our third exercise today. And git status. Oh, sorry, git log. So git log, it shows how many commits and what type of commit that you've done. And this will also be shown later as well as we go through exercises. So now on to the second exercises. This is to show you what branching actually is. So right now we only have this master branch. Imagine that these 2 parts are invisible. So we have this one straight line branch. To create, for example, create the blue branch, you want to do git checkout -b and name the branch, for example, your work. This naming, you could name it anything you want. Oh, sorry, you don't want a space in between. So right now it tells you that you're on your work branch. So with the concept of branching, anything that you do on this branch, on your work branch, it won't affect this master branch. So I'll show you an example. I'll open this JS file. Oh. Let me try to find a better example. So I'll change this animation CSS. Please see here, there's animate spin. So the master branch would have this code right now. So I'll delete this and actually do a git commit on this branch. So git add, git commit -m, delete animation. It'll tell you what it did, and I'll show you git status and git log again. See what it does this time. So git status tells which branch you're on. Git log, it'll show you 2 commit. So you had one initial commit on the master branch and one delete animate commit on your work branch. This head here tells where you are, which branch you are. So if I were to go back from this your work branch to the master branch, I'll do a git checkout master, and bam, you'll see animate here again. So this is the concept of branching. What you do on this branch, it won't affect the master's branch. And if in case that, okay, you're happy with the work that you've done here, you want to merge that work into the master branch, you could do git merge and use the name of the branch that you want to actually merge. So it was named your work. And here you'll see this change occur in the master branch. Git status again. And yeah, that's basically branching in a nutshell. So I'll let you guys think about that for a bit. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask it now. We have quite a quiet room today. So if you're not responding, it's hard to know if you've taken the concepts that we've given you or not. So
Actually,
I'm happy
Ken,
to accept any questions. Yeah.
they can't respond on the chat because it's not
They
working.
could unmute, and you could
Yeah,
unmute and
guys,
just
please
speak. It's
unmute
fine.
and ask questions.
So it's the best for both of us. So we could get to help you, and you get to help yourself as well if you have any questions whatsoever. And sorry, I want to not have the chat function working today. And yeah, so I'm gonna assume that there's no question, and I'm hoping that this like 1 hour session will be helpful for you. So we're finished with our second exercises. So far, we've covered how to actually do this and add and commit our first code into a repository locally. And we've learned to do branching. So for example, you want to test a new function of sorts, you do that in another branch. And if it works, merge to the master one, or if it doesn't, just keep it that way or remove that branch if you want to. And also
How do you
another,
remove it?
you could just git rm and write the name of the branch. Wait, I forgot the name. Oh, your work. Your work didn't match any class, but I don't have it at the moment, but basically you find a cheat sheet. It's if you this is my case right now, so I forgot the command. So I could just do this and yep, this is it. So git branch, I confuse the command with another one. So if you want to delete a branch, you want to do git branch -d and local branch here, replace with your name of the branch. Here, deleted your branch. So if you want to check what branch that you have, you do git branch. This branch A, sorry, it's not supposed to be here. It was something that I repaired earlier, so just disregard this. So right now there should be only one branch. Yep. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, so I hope the two exercises have made you clear on what to do with branching and why is it useful, as well as committing your first commit. So sorry. So right now I'll be showing you how to actually add this code from your local folder into this link. To do that, you want to copy the link to your repo that you created earlier. Oh, sorry. And do this command. Git remote at origin link. And don't worry, I've shown you a lot of commands. You'll be able to get the slides afterward. And you don't need to remember any of this. Just try to let it sink in and ask any questions that you may have during the presentation. So you could actually try and practice afterwards. So to add the link, like to tell the computer which link to actually send the code to, we need to do get remote at origin. Oh, sorry, this is not supposed to happen, but since I've already added it earlier, this is the link that I had earlier. Yep. With this command, you check whether you have a remote there already. So since I've already added this before I was preparing, so there's already an existing one. Otherwise, you'll get it here. So same thing, same output. Afterwards, you want to use git push -u origin -- all. So if with this command, there's a few new tags. Right now, the only thing that you need to understand is with these tags, you only need to use it once at the beginning when you actually put new code into this repository that you created. This is like a configuration, just like when you buy a new device or the new phone, you want to set it up correctly. This tells GitHub to, hey, configure correctly. This is the thing that I want to actually post there. So origin here is actually the name of the remote link that we give. And all it tells us to actually put all the, push all the branches that we have. Like for example, if I were to still have branch A, it would also push branch A with the branch master into this link. So push. And you see some messages here. Let it work for a bit. This is like uploading things online. So the more you have, you can see here, the page has updated. The more you have, I was saying earlier, the more files you have, the longer it'll take. So as you can see here, this is the code that I uploaded. And yeah, that we're basically done with what we have right now. If you have any questions, we're basically done with our third exercise. And feel free to pop in any questions or open your mic, anything if you're not sure about it. Any particular thing, we're happy to help with all we can. So since we're all okay, I'm gonna get Chetna to talk a bit about open source and introduce you. What is it? Why should you listen to it? She'll talk to you more about that. Thank you.
Hey everyone, it feels amazing to see you all here attend the session. So now let's talk about what open source is. I have my guesses that okay, many people would know of what open source is, and even if you don't worry, we'll skim through the topic today. So open source is basically any source, any code that is freely available and that you can redistribute, enhance, keep it to yourself, make use, or do anything with the piece of code that you have. So open source is the code that is built by the developer community for the developer community, and anyone in that community could enhance that code, could write more into it, could delete the unnecessary parts, and could like use their existing knowledge to make changes. It is free for everyone, as the name suggests. It's open source, so it's like open and freely available. The source code is visible to any and everyone, and it can be shared, as I said earlier. So okay, now let me start by giving you an example. So if you need to ace football, okay, like if you wish to become a footballer in future, what would you do? The first step you would take is to join a sports complex or an academy wherein you get exposure to like-minded people, and you'll go out there and play with those people, right? You'll play football, you'll try to improve in your skills, you'll try to upskill yourself for the matter. So now what is there for you in open source is it is a community of like-minded people. You do not have to go outside of it. You have all the like-minded people, all the people who code, all the people who code your language, code in your field. You'll have them together, and you can basically share your knowledge, learn from them, give and take. That is a give and take relationship that you'll experience once you start coding and you adopt open source. So these are the key pointers of why open source is important. The first point being exposure. Obviously, when you are interacting with, say, thousands of people together, you have okay, so Ken taught you about what GitHub is and how you can actually deal with GitHub. Open source is an implementation of it. You will need GitHub, you'll need your code to be out there in the public to help the public view it, make changes, and suggest changes to you and whatnot. So exposure is what you get when you are exposed to open source, and when you write your code out there in the public, you have them correct your code, you have them read your code, you have them use your code. Experience being the second point. Once you start working with a lot of people, you realize that there's something that's lagging in you, or even there's some points that's better in you than others. So you try to upskill yourself, or you try to maintain your strata by being in there and by helping others, by learning from others. So this is one thing that's one kind of experience which you get once you are there in open source. Recognition being the third point. What happens when you do your initial commit and it goes all fine? You get recognized, right? What happens when there's some issue that needs to be treated and no one else but you treat it? So you get a lot of recognition from the public, and you are kind of enchanted while after you solve it, and you get a boost up that okay, I can solve more codes, I can write my own codes, I can be there, and trust me, this is a first hand experience I'm talking about. So recognition is the driving force that helps you become a good and a better coder. Achievement, again, there's a sense of achievement after you solve something, after you commit something that is successful, after you hear from a lot of people about your praise and whatnot. So that's one more thing. Okay, so now one thing which I generally come across is that people come up to me and say that okay, I cannot contribute because I'm not at par in the field. It's nothing like that. You do not have to be at par in the field. No one is at par. No one knows everything about coding. Okay, we all are still learning. It is a slow process. It takes up a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy for us to learn code each day. So it is something that you will learn with time. So you don't need to wait for the day to come where and you will know everything about everything. No, that's not going to happen, right? You just learn as you go. And that is the reason why you should actually get exposed to it at a very early stage of your coding career. I hope what all I'm saying makes sense to you. So now the various opportunities. What all opportunities do you have in open source, and what all, like, how can you contribute more to it? How will you get on with a good future if you adopt this? So there's one Hacktoberfest. Hacktoberfest, obviously, as the name suggests, it runs in the month of October. It's a 1 month long journey, and you can commit various issues. You can actually have beginners issues there. You can commit to various repositories there, and you can actually work with the people. And there's a limit of 4 PRs. If you commit in 4 PRs, you get swags delivered at your place. What else would be better than this, right? The next thing we have Google Summer of Code. It's really very popular and a really good opportunity for anyone and everyone who wants to work in Google. They even they even recruit people out of this opportunity, as far as I know. So the journey starts in January and it ends in September. In this long journey, you will be exposed. You will know everything about how the coding, what the coding environment at that place is, and how you can actually contribute more and more, and how can you actually learn from the people there, from the experts. Google is a brand, so yeah. Outreachy, there's one more. Okay, so this is a very good opportunity. The stages, the application stages are a bit hectic, but you don't need to worry that much about it. So the applications open twice a year. In May, there's one cohort of May to August, and the other one is from December to March. You can participate in both of it, in one of it, any way you like. So this is one more opportunity which you should definitely try if you're getting in there. So this was all about Git. This was all about open source, Git, GitHub, everything about it. So open source not being that vast topic, we have something else, some bonus for you in the room. And what the bonus is? Okay, so we'll tell you people about GitHub pages. This is not that much discovered as far as I know. Many people know about it obviously, but then beginners, I'm not sure if they know about it. What are GitHub pages? GitHub pages are basically the resources. It is basically a thing wherein you can host your own website and link it directly with your existing repository. So you can basically outshow your projects, outshow your what do we say, your like your profile in there, and you can build your own profile from scratch or generate one of your project. So you get one site per GitHub account and organization and unlimited project sites. So what happens when you actually have access to those GitHub pages, and what all you discover in that? You people will have the experience. You people will know how to build your own website from scratch, how to outshow your projects, how to be in there in on the internet with all your projects, with all your things out there, and how can you win recognition, how can you actually attract a large amount of people. So it allows you to serve any static website straight from your repository. And guys, don't worry about the links that we have provided here and you're not able to access them. We'll surely be sending you mails once you fill the feedback form. The next thing is the other resources that we have for you. These are the cheat sheets about pull requests, about open source, what open source is. We have them all figured out for you. We have the podcasts in here and everything from A to Z which you need to learn about the introductory session. So we'll just share these things with you. Don't worry about that. Okay, so this is a surprise. So this is GitHub Student Developer Pack. What this pack is about, I'm really excited to talk about this because this is one big thing. And what is it? GitHub Student Developer Pack. It gives you access to many software, sites, resources which are not freely available, which are paid resources, and you need them to enhance your project or to do anything with your project. So this developer pack is the thing that you need. Trust me on this. And why? What do you need to qualify? What are the qualifications so that you can avail this pack? Nothing of that sort. I'm pretty sure all of us are qualified in here. So the qualifications are that you need to be from an esteemed university. And the second thing is that you should be 13 years of age and above. So these are just the two qualifications that you need to finally avail this GitHub Student Developer Pack. And guys, one thing which I can assure you is you will need it in the future. So it's rather like good if you can just go and avail it right after installing Git and like running through the entire project. So anything you guys want to ask, anything that there's anything, if you are confused about anything you guys want us to answer, we'll be more than happy to answer. Just feel free to drop in your questions. Okay, you cannot drop in your questions because the chat is not working. So anything else that you need to answer, just unmute yourself and feel free to ask.
And I would also like to add one thing. So the files that I uploaded earlier, it wasn't there yet. Right now it's here. So I'll show you the screen. So this is what you'll get after you upload the files. These are the files that I added earlier. So here there was a folder build, dev, gov task. And yeah, so for example, if you wanted to not show any files, you could put the name here. Like for example, if I didn't want to show package.json, or just write package.json, and after the next commit and git push, this won't appear in the repository anymore. And yeah, that's the only thing I want to add. So another thing is GitHub pages. So in case you have an HTML file or something like that, you'll be able to open GitHub pages. Through here, you want to select which branch you want to show, and after that, it gives you a link. So the link like this with the suffix IO, it's basically hosted on GitHub. It's GitHub pages. This might take a little bit. This is like a timetable site. They use students in Australia use it to do their timetable. So if you see IO, it's basically hosted on GitHub. Now that's the only things I wanted to add.
Also guys, I've just dropped in the link to the feedback form in the chats below. So please take some of your time and provide us your valuable feedbacks. We're really sorry that the chat function is not working today, but okay, things happen. Still, if you have any doubts, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask us. We'll be here for a while, so go ahead.
Guys, please fill the feedback form. We'll be highly honored if you do that. We'll be obliged.
Could I access it?
Let me confirm.
If it's not accessible, just one of you please unmute and tell.
It is not accessible. Where is the feedback form?
Just a second.
You could how about the links on the slides? Were you able to click on the link?
Yes, in the slides we are able to click on the link.
Okay, so I'll show it on the slides.
We'll send you the slides once you fill the feedback form. We'll mail it to you. Don't worry. You'll have all the resources curated at one single place.
Great. Now, Ken, if you could just present the slide.
Yeah, it's loading at the moment.
Okay, all right.
So I'll move to the last slide. It's still loading.
Okay,
It's okay. It's okay. It'll take a couple of seconds. It will come eventually.
Till then, if any of you have any questions related to GitHub, open source, GitHub pages, student developer pack, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask them.
Yes, anything about it. We'll be more than happy to answer.
You'll be able to see the link now.
Yep, it's visible. Guys, please confirm if you are able to access it.
Yes, the link is visible and clickable.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you,
Thank you so much.
All right, guys. So please do fill the feedback form. and we'll just wait for 5 more minutes to see if any of you guys have any questions, and then we can end the workshop.
So I have a question for Ken. This is something different from GitHub and open source. I want to ask, why are you using the white theme in VS Code?
No, I'm not using the white theme. I just wanted to show, hey, this is cool. You could change the theme and you don't need to use white. But wanted to use white because you see the slides are all black and wanted something to chase your attention.
Okay. So did you get your answer, Dheeraj?
Sorry if it hurt your eyes.
We all are so used to using that dark theme. That's why maybe.
Yes, actually we are used to use the dark theme.
Yeah.
Also, once you fill the feedback form, you'll be getting all the slides and the other resources in your mail. So, yeah, though you don't have to worry about forgetting things.
You also get the link to the recording as well, so you could rewatch parts that you didn't really understand. And the slides would cover my hands-on part, Abby's, and Chetna's as well.
Yeah.
For some reason, Teams decided to play with us on the day of the event before the chat was working.
Yeah.
Thanks for the feedback.
Okay, so no one.
I had a question regarding branching.
Yep.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, whenever we upload our code from our local machine, whenever we push the code, then it goes to the branch and then we have to merge it to the master branch. Is that so?
If you don't want to merge it to the master branch, it's also fine. So I'll share my screen again. So in the slides that we're sending you, you'll see that I'm looking for the push branch. You'll see the tag here, -- all. It means push all branches, either merge or unmerge. Every single branch, the masters and other branch will be pushed. So it doesn't really matter if it's merged or not. If you use the -- all, it will push everything online. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Rahul.
Anyone else with any doubt? Okay, I guess there are no more doubts, so we can wrap up this workshop.
So one more last question. Any future meetings or any workshops you had decided means you're going to take in future?
Okay, so we wanted to start with something really basic so that everyone is on the same page. But we are planning to take some workshops on a little advanced topics such as Azure, deploying things on Azure, and things like that. Every one of you will be updated about the workshops if and when we'll be conducting them. So, yep, we have the workshops planned or in the planning stage.
Yeah, we do have.
Nothing certain right now. Yeah.
Okay, so that's nice.
Thank you, Dheeraj.
Any more questions in the room? Okay, no more questions. So I guess we can wrap up the workshop.
So that,
Abhishek, you're on mute.
okay, sorry.
Aha,
Yeah. Nah,
it's okay.
I think it's all right. So I was just telling that let me share the feedback link once again. Okay, I don't have it on my slides. Great. Ken, can you present your slides?
You want the feedback?
Yep.
Yeah, just share it once again.
Or the feedback link, right?
Yeah, the feedback link
Oh.
on the screen so that everyone can click on it, or maybe take a screenshot and they can fill them later on. All right, people. So you can still click on that link if you haven't done already. You can just click on it, or maybe take a screenshot and fill it out later. Thank you everyone here for attending this workshop. Hope you learned something new. Hope you learned about GitHub and VCS, and also really sorry about the chat thing that happened. But all right, it's all right. So again, thank you everyone for coming and attending this session, and we'll wrap up. So bye everyone.
Bye, everyone. You've all been amazing. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for joining, and sorry for the chat not working. Some of you might be a bit shy, not ask any questions, but yep, thank you, and we'll be contacting you through emails with the slides and recording and everything. Thank you.